I'm gonna beat you into the living death.
Welcome back to Yelling About Mixed Martial Arts, the show where I yell about mixed martial arts. UFC 313 may have gotten DC all kinds of frisky on the weigh-in show, but as the old saying goes, the nipples are always hardest before the fall. Yes, the guard at light heavyweight has changed once again, the hands of stone have had their crowns snatched, and the term Big Onk Time now exists, so everything really fucking sucks. So how the hell did we get here? Well, Alex Pereira got himself stun-locked in his fight with Magomed Ankalaev, his kicks didn't work as intended, and his hands were unable to be deployed. A regular SpaceX rocket launch of a performance, in the sense that everyone was expecting one thing to happen, a completely different thing happened, and somewhere in the middle, a plan went tits up. I made an entire video talking about all the curses Alex faced entering 313 that nobody actually watched, including myself apparently, as none of the things I discussed in it deterred my faith in Alex Pereira going into this fight. But whether it was one of those curses, all of those curses, some of those curses, or none of those curses, the fact remains. The Alex that showed up to fight Magomed Ankalaev was not the same Alex that walked through Jamal and Yuri, nor the one who went to war with Khalil. Side note, who the fuck goes to a Drake concert in 2025 anyway, Alex? I know they showed the Super Bowl in Brazil. Ankalaev made it to the cage with his eye on the prize and 4 limbs for non-lethal weapons after walking out to a song which sounded like an audible neurotoxin in its own right. He then proceeded to navigate a fairly elementary fight because of Poaton's inactivity. When Alex was at range, Ankalaev kicked. When he was close, Ankalaev threw hands. These are things that you too can learn on day 1 of strip mall karate, and not things that should have worked like a Swiss watch against the light heavyweight champion of the world, the one, the only. When the title fight concluded for Poaton, he went into active denier mode, claiming that Ankalaev clinched his way to victory. When the fight ended for Ankalaev, he went into immediate heel mode on Yuri Prohashka, telling him how much he sucks as a fighter, and then dropped the phrase Big Onk Time on the world, a slogan so cringe, I'm surprised it didn't come out of Henry Cejudo. Not gonna lie, of the 2 post-fight attitudes, I'm not disliking the champ. The sport moves forward, and until the rematch, the Russian Goblin makes me laugh. Justin Gaethje eked out a narrow victory over Rafael Fiziev in the co-main of 313 and is angling for a title fight before backflipping off of the cage and into retirement. With this questionable win over a guy who was out for a year and stepped into the fight on 12 days' notice, and after getting mauled in the BMF fight, a title shot certainly seems like the most logical play. If it's not a title shot for Justin, Arman Sarukian chimed in for a fight with him after the win. I'm just glad to see his devastating back injury has healed to the point where his Twitter fingers are working again. Also from the 313 card, there were some nice finishes from Ignacio Bahamundes and Carlos Leal, but none quite as spectacular as the performance bonus in motion that was Mauricio Rufy wheel-kicking King Green into a pile of rubble. Green with his hands right down. There you go. There's the spin.
Oh, no. That's it.
Whoa! Holy shit!
What the fuck?
Wow! Holy shit!
Bro.
Oh my god! Spinning wheel kick just knocked his fucking block off. Oh, Jesus,
Yo.
Look at Bobby's face. Wow!
That was crazy.
But this, of course, was not the only Fighting Nerd highlight of the week. Aside from the aforementioned Daniel Cormier feeling the need to wear nipple covers on the weigh-in show and simultaneously presenting the world with an image that cannot be unseen, the real entertainment was at the UFC 314 press conference with fellow nerd John Silva barking through Bryce Mitchell's religious affirmations and taunting Bryce with a globe. I'm reminded of this tweet from Oban Elliott asking if John Silva really is autism, and after watching this presser, I have to say indeed, Oban, Silva doesn't have autism, he really just is it. Also at the 314 press conference, Alexander Volkanovski secondhand serenaded Diego Lopez because of his emo mullet. The accuracy with which he sang this song leads me to believe that there may have been an emo phase for Volk back in the days when he weighed 214 pounds. I'm talking about the rugby days, of course, not the ones leading up to the second fight with Islam Makhachev. Following the Pereira Ankalaev decision from 313, Alex's ex-girlfriend popped back up on Instagram to celebrate his downfall. I can't be too mad at this salt monster because she is in the MMA content space as a podcaster, so talking about this loss is within her general scope of operation. What I will say though is that every time she turns up to talk about Alex, it always comes with some vague comments alluding to his mistreatment of women. Hey Merle, here's a crazy idea. If you've got receipts, why don't you put up or shut up already? Considering the other allegations that you've already weighed in on, you're continuing to stir a cold pot if you don't actually put your cards on the table, which is why most people don't believe that you have any to begin with. This behavior can't be fun for the real winner who decided to marry your scorned ass. Either put it all on Front Street or move on down the line because you're sad right now, Merle. There's a few other minor stories in the news at the moment, so let's speed run this shit and bring this thing to a close. The May 17th event scheduled to take place in Qatar is no longer taking place in Qatar. It's at the Apex now, no one knows why, so what's going on with Qatar is the question without an answer. Jeremy Stevens got a knockout over Eddie Alvarez to become a BKFC champion back in January, and now he's somehow back in the UFC, going up against fellow second-timer Mason Jones. Rafael Fiziev took his fight of the night bonus in popcorn because he's dope and he does dope shit, and Marvin Vettori is Italian and quite enjoys rigatoni. Nina Drama shook her ass with Eileen Perez for some easy clicks, which is neither news nor is it surprising. For yelling about mixed martial arts, this is Thinker St. James reminding you that if you care this much about MMA, you too are a fucking moron. On a more serious note, I want to at least address the situation going on with BJ Penn at the moment. ITP MMA did a great analysis of the situation, which I'll link in the description, but in short, BJ seems to be experiencing a mental condition called Capgras syndrome, in which he believes his mother has been replaced by an imposter, or doppelganger. He's threatened her with physical harm because of this, making the situation in Hawaii rather worrisome. This is of course compounded with the years of potential damage he sustained from fighting both in and outside of the octagon, and an alleged history of drug and alcohol abuse, none of which served to help matters. As a person who believes in the philosophy of live and let live, I generally wouldn't advocate for intervention in matters where no crime has been committed, but with BJ threatening violence, I think that waiting for something terrible to happen would be exceedingly incorrect in this case. Involuntary commitment laws are in place for these exact type of circumstances, and with the behavior that BJ has been exhibiting, now is the exact time for them to be employed. The matter is of course delicate, and as I'm not a direct party to it, all I can really say beyond that is that it's hard to see any person going through a situation like this, let alone a legend of mixed martial arts, so I sincerely hope that BJ gets the help that he needs, and that his family can move on from this situation in peace. Get well soon, champ, because the alternatives are looking rather grim.
BJ Penn.